Hello there. It's a Trust God and Be Real moment. And today I want to talk about something a little heavier, but I can't get away from it because I have not spoken on things before that have come to me, and sometimes it's been harder for me to get something to speak on the next time. So I'm going to go ahead and say what's churning in my heart. And with a much prayer have I decided to go ahead and do this with a heavy heart, but a serious heart and truth. Trust God and be real, right? Okay, do you know that there are people who would rather see you dead? Yeah, they would rather see you dead. That is pretty harsh. You're like, wow, how can you even say that? But we know this. The reality is there are people in our life that do not like us, that have aught against us, and they would rather see us dead. I even am going to say I've heard people say before, God needs to take them out, or they need to, how about this? And I know it sounds harsh, but I've heard people say it. They need to wrap it around a tree. Isn't that sad? That's very sad. I also know of people who have put names of people in the floor, and they're going to walk around them and ask God to take those people out. Whoa. The things that I've just described is cursing and it's witchcraft. But guess what? That's another subject. I'm not going to talk about that today, but I am going to talk about death and life. And here's where I'm coming from. I was reading the story of when Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. And that is a wonderful story. I love that story because not only was it a picture of I'm the resurrection and the life. This was probably a Jewish boy. Lazarus was one of he's someone they knew, and he died, and Jesus raised him from the dead. And Jesus made clear it was to glorify God, or to God know that you sent me, God. But also it was a picture of what was getting ready to happen. That Jesus was the resurrection in the flesh in front of their eyes, before their eyes, and that was going to happen. But then the interesting thing is, because Jesus did that, his fame, that's what the leadership said, his fame, they became bigger, and they wanted to follow him because Lazarus was raised from the dead. So maybe they're going to have to kill Jesus to save their religious system. They're going to have to shut down what Jesus did to save their religious system. And so we're going to have to do something about Jesus, but we may have to do something about Lazarus. We may have to kill him too. What? Yes, kill Lazarus. He had been raised from the dead. Jesus raised him from the dead, but now that's caused so much rocking of our boat that we were happy with that we would rather him be dead. We liked it better when he was dead. Think about that spiritually. Now, Jesus is going to give us resurrection, life, and life eternal. We have it already as Christians. And our mortal bodies will be raised. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about spiritual death. And when places in us become alive, and Jesus shakes things in us and says, hope, Jera, come forth. This area of your life, wake up. It was dead. I want to bring it to life. There's people that don't like that. They would rather that have remained dead. Because when Jesus brings things to life, it kind of disrupts things. It disrupts the system. So I would be praying for you, for me, that it searches God. Any areas in us that are not alive, let the resurrection power of Jesus awaken us and bring it to life. We want to be fully alive in Christ. We don't want areas in ours to be dead, hidden, not complete full in him. But unfortunately, as that happens in our life, sometimes people around us, and it can be a lot of times in church settings. Unfortunately, it's usually in church, in our religious settings, that they don't like that life in us. And so then they'll say things to try to kill that life in us. So recognize that. Sometimes you'll have to walk away and go someplace different. Or if they don't like the life that Christ has brought in you or what you've been awakened to, you either will have to kind of kill that in yourself to be able to stay and be accepted and fit the system that's presently there. That's what you'll have to do if you want to remain there. Or you'll have to step out and move into life, because you know what? Really and truthfully, what we're supposed to do is bring life to other people. But this has been something that is just churning in me, and I want the fullness that God has for me. I want to trust God completely and to be full of life, to be the real me, and to be the real me as Christ in me. You know, it's Christ in us, the hope of glory. So Christ has to be fully alive in us before we can be fully alive. But I've been thinking about that. So watch out for the people around you that would rather that part of you that got woke up and got enlightened to be dead. Because it's real. Don't hold it against them. Don't hold it against them. Sometimes you just have to separate from that. Because, you know, actually, we will see that. I've talked about this before. As you become closer to Christ, persecution comes. And that's what that was, persecution. But this persecution comes out of fear of losing control. Because when man is in control, God is not in control. And there's a fear of letting go and letting God be in control sometimes. But anyway, there's a lot more to this, but I love the story of Lazarus. I love the possibilities of every dead thing in our life being raised to life in areas that we don't know are dead. So I speak life, I speak resurrection over you, over me, over my family, over your family. And I say, let the love of God wash over us as Jesus invades every area of our being and we become fully alive in Him. You have a great day. God bless you. I love you. Trust God and be real.